In 1975, after 35 years of General Franco's fascist regime, King Juan Carlos I took power and propelled Spain into an era of freedom and democracy. Today, cities like the capital Madrid and Barcelona are cultural centers, buzzing with life day and night. At over 2,000 feet, Madrid is Europe's highest capital. Located here is the Royal Palace, the largest in Western Europe. It became the royal residence in 1561, was rebuilt after a fire in 1734, and today is used only for ceremonial purposes. Spain's rich history can be seen all over Madrid, from the Plaza de Cibeles to Don Quixote to the Museo del Prado, where you'll find works by Velázquez, Goya, and El Greco. Northeast of Madrid is Barcelona, the second largest city in Spain, as well as the capital of the autonomous community of Catalonia. In the streets of Barcelona, not only will you hear Catalan as well as Spanish, but you'll also be surrounded by the work of artists like Miró, Picasso, and Gaudí. Architect Antoni Gaudí's buildings can be seen all throughout the city. His last project, Sagrada Familia, is a massive church that's been under construction since 1882. Some people expect it to be completed around 2041.
In Spain, there's a September haze. It's a country that exemplifies the European dream of a prosperous life buoyed by a generous welfare state. It's a country used to fiesta and dance, regality and ceremony, to pomp and victory. A nation that has, in the past, run with the bulls and lived to tell another tale, has now been trampled in its path.
Nosotros somos el Lehman Brothers de Europa.
Spain is the Lehman Brothers of Europe.
Today in Spain, the drumbeat of progress has stopped, and the song that it sings is off-key. With anticipation heavy in the air and the political and financial future of Europe and its place in the world at stake, those looking for clues on how best to emerge from the Great Recession are turning to the Iberian Peninsula.
That Spain is the linchpin. Spain is the country in which the crucial battle for the Eurozone is being fought.
Recent news that Germany, Europe's economic powerhouse, posted its fastest growth rate since the end of the Cold War, has lifted spirits in some parts of the Eurozone. But here in Spain, the continent's fifth largest economy, the symptoms of the Great Recession remain acute. A high budget deficit, a troubled banking sector, a polarized political system, and a state hamstrung by resurgent regional governments. Integral to the European economic project, but locked in its worst recession since emerging from fascist dictatorship, Spain is frozen in a moment that history may judge as watershed for the continent, and a test of how far governments can and should go to unfreeze progress.
For the Eurozone, I think this is definitely the most defining moment of all the defining moments.
The questions become, if Spain's economic woes intensify, is the country too big to fail or too big to save? And if it needs saving, who will do it? A country that has always had reason to dance is settling in for a distinctly European hangover.
The number of visitors to Spain hit a new record in 2016, according to the tourism minister. It was the fourth consecutive record year, with numbers boosted by security concerns in some other Mediterranean holiday destinations, such as Turkey and North Africa. The total was up by almost 10% from 2015, with 75.3 million international visitors. Spain's thriving tourism industry accounts for around 11% of its gross domestic product and employs 1 in 8 people in the workforce. Spain's economy continued to steadily improve in the final 3 months of last year. The National Statistics Institute says growth from the previous quarter was 0.7%. For the whole year, 3.2% growth made it one of the fastest expanding in the Eurozone. A huge influx of tourists, each spending an average of €800 during their stay, helped. However, growth is expected to start slowing this year to a 2.5% rate. That's because higher oil prices will cause inflation to jump, limiting Spaniards' purchasing power, and the recovery over the past 3 years has been consumer-led. The pace of job creation is also expected to slow. Unemployment's at its lowest since 2009, but is still above 18% of the workforce.
According to the videos and research we found on Spain's economy, its past has been plagued with crisis and its present caked with uncertainty. In the prime of the financial crisis, Spain's unemployment rate sat at 20%, the highest in the Eurozone, leaving young adults, like us and our peers, jobless. This stemmed from the problem of the older generation of workers being locked in with permanent contracts, while younger generations would be lucky to be offered a short-term or temporary contract. Next, the property bust along the coastal areas of Spain caused huge housing and hospitality developments to be unfinished, abandoned, or mostly vacant. Many businesses and individuals lost out entirely on what they believed to be good investments at the time. Finally, Spain relied on austerity measures such as cutting back pensions and public salaries to reduce the budget deficit to less than 3% of GDP, hopefully by the year 2013. It is these same types of austerity measures that led the U.S. to its own financial crisis back in the 1930s. Clearly, a lot of decisions were made or conditions in place that led the country to being strongly impacted by Europe's financial crisis. What's worse still is that policymakers and economists could not seem to agree to a solution for the problem, with some stating there was no solution at all. Now that Spain is out of a state of financial crisis, still a lot of uncertainty exists when it comes to Spain's economic environment. One of the deepest areas of speculation is what effect the constitutional crisis of Catalonia declaring independence will have on the Spanish economy. CNN claims that since Catalonia accounts for 1/5 of Spain's economy, Catalonia's independence would cause a huge hole in Spain's finances. The 2018 Index of Economic Freedom simply claims that Catalonia's split will definitely test Spain's post-financial crisis economy. In contrast, some hold that Catalonia's independence is the motivation Spain needs to boost their economy, and state that the country could be better off in the long run if its citizens' preferences are more in line with the central government. Speaking of Spain's future economy, there is a silver lining. According to the 2017 World Economic Forum, Spain maintains the #1 spot in the Travel and Tourism Competitive Index globally. With its unique combination of culture and natural resources, ranking 2nd and 9th globally respectively, according to the forum, Spain has the ability to thrive economically in the tourism industry, especially after the ease of its fiscal policy. Simple modernizations and improvements of Spain's ground transportation systems and business enterprises can really allow the country to further exploit this advantage while tourism is still heavily discouraged in the Middle East. If Spain seizes this opportunity, it could very well offset whatever impact Catalonia's newly declared independence has on the economy and deter Spain from continuing down the path of economic uncertainty.